adjusting notification settings in Windows so that it's not distracting and you get the information that you need. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the Start, and we're going to click on the gear for settings, and in this Find Something box, I'm just going to start typing notifications. And as I type, you'll see that it's going to bring up items in here that match what we're looking for. So I'm going to click on Notification and Action Settings. And by default, Windows turns every notification you can imagine on, and that's a problem. First, it's distracting, so you're always getting pop-ups about things that are going on or things that you might want to know that you really don't want to know. So what I do to make things easier on me is I start turning things off. So I'm going to turn off show notifications from the lock screen, things about voice over IP calls, the welcome experience, tips and tricks. Now this last one, get notifications from apps and other senders, I'm going to keep that one on. But it's going to force me down here to this list, and it shows the senders who can send notifications. I don't care about downloads. I don't care about autoplay, Bluetooth, display settings. In fact, most of this I don't care about. What I do care about are my security and maintenance alerts. And these are important because it's going to tell you when things have to happen, like automatic updates or defrag your drive, or more importantly, when items are blocked from security. So part of security is making sure you have those proper notifications. So we're going to go ahead and finish this up. We're going to turn all of these other things off. And what we end up with is notifications from notifications apps and other senders with security and maintenance notifications turned on. And that should be enough to get us through the baseline of telling us what needs to go on with security. One of the threats that we encounter on a daily basis is viruses and ransomware. And Windows has a baked-in tool to help harden your machine against ransomware, but there are a lot of pros and cons to it. So we're going to take a look at that real quick, and I'll show you how to enable it and how it works. I'm going to click on Start, and to simplify my life, I'm just going to type in ransomware. So I'm going to start with ransom. And what you're going to see is it's going to pop up this best match ransomware protection. So I'm going to click on that. And it's going to bring me to a little known feature inside of Windows 10, and it's the ransomware protection box. The first thing that I want to point out here is ransomware data recovery. I use OneDrive Personal. I also use OneDrive Business. By default, these tools have version control turned on. So the thought process is, if you get ransomware, you can go back to OneDrive Personal or OneDrive Business and just revert to a previous version of the file, and all of your data is there. And that's a good thought, but there are some problems with that. OneDrive Personal, for example, in order to roll back, you have to roll back each individual file. So if you have thousands of files, you're going through each one and rolling back. And on OneDrive Personal, it's a little easier. You can roll back an entire set of files. But the issue with today's ransomware is it might encrypt something 1, 3, 5, 10 times. You don't know. So there's a lot of time allocated to trying to get that data back. There's an additional feature that you can turn on in Windows that helps with this. And it's called Controlled Folder Access. So if we turn this on, what we see is we get some options here. The first one is Protected Folders. So we're going to click on Protected Folders. And by default, what you're going to see is these are your normal storage location in Windows. Now, I have other locations that I want to protect. So I'm just going to go ahead and add a protected folder. And Dropbox is one. I'm going to protect my Dropbox. And I'm going to protect OneDrive. And I'm going to protect my OneDrive for Business. I've protected all of these additional folders that I use on a regular basis. What this means is these folders are now protected from unauthorized access. What does that mean? The folders that I've listed here can only be accessed by applications that Windows trusts. And normally that would be files like Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, things that Microsoft creates. External programs that Microsoft doesn't know about aren't trusted, and that's where some of the problems come in. So when we look at this, there's another option here called Allow an App Through Controlled Folder Access. Now, I've used this previously, So you'll see that I have applications in here. However, normally you would not see applications in here. It would be completely blank. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what happens when you try to use an application that hasn't been authorized in this list. So we already said Microsoft Word, Excel, those things are going to work right out of the box. But what if I try to use Photoshop? So I'm going to go ahead and open up Photoshop. Now we've opened Photoshop, and we're going to click on a file. We're going to go ahead and load it, and I've loaded my image file here. And I'm going to click File, Export, Export as PNG. This is going to create and save a new file, and I'm going to go ahead and try to put that into Dropbox. So we're going to name that Desktop 6 and just click Save. What happens is I get an error. And the reason that I'm getting an error is because we can't see this folder. It doesn't have the rights to see this folder. So because of that, we end up with some problems. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK on this and leave all of this open, and we'll switch over to our notifications bar. And you'll see up here, hey, I've got a virus and threat protection. Unauthorized changes blocked. Controlled folder access blocked. Photoshop.exe from making changes. Click to see the settings. So when we click this, what happens is we end up back at this ransomware protection screen. So what we need to do to allow Photoshop to have access is allow an app through controlled folder access. So we click on this, and it brings us to our list of applications. And we're simply going to click on Add an Allowed Application. And I'm going to look at my recently blocked apps. And then I'm just going to go ahead and add Photoshop. Now you might think that that is going to fix the entire problem, but it doesn't. So we're going to go ahead and close out of this. We're back in Photoshop. You'll see I'm still trying to save my file. I'm going to click Save. It still cannot save. So what I have to do is I actually have to completely close Photoshop, and then I'll reopen it. So Photoshop is open. We just go ahead and click on our image, load it up again. So what we're going to do is we're going to try to save this again. So I'm going to do File, Export, Quick Export as PNG. I'm going to go to my Dropbox folder, and I'm just going to go ahead and try to save this. And when I hit Save, this time you see that it just worked. So if we open up our File Explorer and we look at our Dropbox folder, there's our file, Desktop 6. So it worked exactly how we expected. But until you allow that application through, you will not be able to save with it. And a lot of people don't turn this on, and it's not turned on by default. And the reason for that is because it might take you several days to set all of the applications that should not be blocked. Or when you add a new application, it may not work the way that you expect until you allow it to have permissions. But at the same time, if you accidentally download, we'll say, a screensaver or something to that effect, and all of a sudden it's trying to access your files and folders, it's probably doing something wrong. And with this, it won't encrypt those files or folders. So this is just a double layer of protection against ransomware, and I think it's a pretty good tool to be used.